Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I've been living in the US from 2001 till 2005, where I've been running an Islamic organization. Accordingly, that organization participated each and every year on the 10th, 11th, and 12th of September in a UN conference in Manhattan, New York. It's an annual UN conference called the DPI conference, the Department of Public Information. It's a conference for NGOs, the non-governmental organizations. So each year on the 10th, 11th, and 12th of September, I had to be in Manhattan, New York. So this sums up today's story. On September 11, 2001, I was in Manhattan, New York. And this day, the 11th of September, it was the second day of the conference that I was attending. And the first seminar I wished to attend on that day was at 11 in the morning. I finished breakfast at my hotel at 8 a.m. So I had a free time between 8 till 11 a.m. So a 3-hour gap to do whatever I wanted. And I was a newcomer to the US. And I wanted to see around in New York. The hotel that I was staying in was in the Broadway area, an area known for theaters and cinemas and so on. And I was nearly halfway between the United Nations building and the World Trade Center, which was hit by planes on September 11. So I said to myself, I will take a cab to the World Trade Center, that was at 8 o'clock in the morning, to get a view of New York from above and take photos, because in that building they have a panoramic floor where you can go and buy a ticket, and then you go, if the weather is good, you can see up to Staten Island and the Statue of Liberty, and you can take nice photos from there. So I said, let me go there and have some good pictures, and then head afterwards to the United Nations to attend at 11 a.m. the seminar I wanted. I went outside my hotel at 8 a.m. to get a cab, heading to the World Trade Center. No cab would stop for me for maybe 20 minutes at least. No cab stopped. 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and no cab would stop for me. So I felt that my sightseeing plans are disappearing in the air, because actually time was flying and there would be no time to visit the World Trade Center after that or take any photos. So I was so desperate. I was so disappointed. I wanted to imagine how I felt. A mix of frustration and anger, irritation and nervousness. For about 30 minutes, I'm waiting just to take a cab, while Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was saving my life. I would have been dead since 2001. If a cab had stopped at once, I would have thought that the day started well as planned, and I would have arrived at the World Trade Center in about half an hour. So that is 8:30. And by the time I would have bought a ticket and gone up, the first plane would have hit the tower, because the first plane hit the tower at 8:45. I would have been happy if a cab had stopped at the first or the second minute. But I would have died, and my kids would have been orphaned. But for half an hour, no taxi had stopped for me. And I was angry and I was frustrated. But this is the reason why I am filming this episode today after 24 years or 23 years, because I escaped death on that day. That day I understood a sign of the Quran, an ayah in the Quran, as if I was reading it for the first time, which is وعسى أن تكرهوا شيئا وهو خير لكم وعسى أن تحبوا شيئا وهو شر لكم والله يعلم وأنتم لا تعلمون. But it may be that you dislike something while it is good for you. And maybe that you like something while it is bad for you. And listen to this. And Allah knows and you know not. That they understood what belief in fate meant. Be it a pleasant fate or unpleasant, means I had memorized and preached such words to people in lectures and speeches, but until September 11, I hadn't understood it in its real essence. But it may be that you dislike something while it is good for you. That day, what it meant for me was that the unpleasant situation of finding no cabs for half an hour, which I hated so much, in other words, you hate it so much, you have been through, even though it is in fact, it was the best for me. And it may be that you like something while it is bad for you. That's what the Quran says. That day it meant that having a cab stopped immediately in the first minute, which is something that I wanted to happen, and I would have been so happy if it did, this would have caused my kids to be orphaned. And it would have been the worst thing to happen in my life. So in short, that would have made me happy and elated, would have been the worst thing to befall me. But I didn't know that. And what saddened me and angered me was the best thing actually that has happened to me in my life, which is no taxi stopping for me. But I didn't know that. As long as I do not know what is seemingly good and what is really good and what's really not, why do I still feel happy about things? If we don't really know what's really good and what's really bad, why are we still exaggerating in our feelings of happiness and excitement? Actually, that day I discovered the true belief in the prescribed destiny or fate. It is replacing those two feelings of happiness and sadness with a feeling of contentment. If something good happens to you, rather than feeling happy, be content, accept it. If something bad happens to you, rather than feeling sad, be content. God tells you, so that you do not grieve over what you have missed. لكي لا تأسوا على ما فاتكم ولا تفرحوا بما آتاكم. It means so that you do not grieve over what you have missed, nor exalt over what has been given to you. A very short ayah explains the whole matter, so that you do not grieve over what you have missed. If you miss or lose something, don't be sad, nor exalt over what He has given you. If you get something, win something, do not be extra happy. Don't exaggerate in your feeling of happiness, because you don't know if it's really good or not. Being content, rida, is the real emotion. It is better and more stable and more stable actually than happiness or sadness. Be content. Do you know what God says about those who are content? Allah says, this is the day when the truthful benefit from their truthfulness. For them are gardens beneath which rivers flow, abiding therein forever. Allah became well content with them, and they became well content with Him. رضي الله عنهم ورضوا عنه. Allah became content with them, and they became well content with Him. That is the great triumph. So they became content, so God was content with them and awarded them with gardens beneath which rivers flow. which means gardens on top of mountains and hills, and the rivers are flowing down in a beautiful scene in the valleys. And this is the great triumph. With this, I conclude today, and Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. In the next episode, we will see what I have witnessed in the streets of Manhattan on the 11th of September in the afternoon of the incidents that took place. Wassalamu alaikum.